I don't know if Diana or anyone else involved in this festival knew this when they invited our film, but Bryan Cranston and I are both in-the-closet Germans. It's true. My heritage is German on both sides of my family, and Bryan's grandfather was a German baker. What's really weird is my grandfather was a German baker. So we think not the same guy. Apparently there's more than one. All right. I am not sure why my people left Germany for America, but you know, I think the fun might be over. Might be time to come home, and I think you can understand why. So thank you, Munich, for welcoming 2 political refugees back to the fatherland. I finished writing my screenplay, the first draft of my screenplay, for Wakefield 5 years ago in 2012. And I wanted Bryan Cranston to play the role of Howard Wakefield. I wanted him right away. As soon as I finished, I wanted Bryan Cranston. In 2012, Breaking Bad was definitely a hit show. It had been a hit show for several years in the US, though it wasn't playing abroad yet. Bryan Cranston, of course, kept winning Emmy Awards in the US for his role of Walter White. But even before Breaking Bad, Bryan was highly respected in the film and television community for his comic work in series like Seinfeld, Malcolm in the Middle, and in another part of his career, he excelled at playing a range of character parts in movies like Argo and Little Miss Sunshine. When you see that spectrum from dark to light, it's unusual. Bryan is an incredibly fluid actor. There is no one remotely like him, is what I told my producers. Bryan can hit those dissonant notes, the humor, the pathos, the darkness. He's the master of that. And my producers completely agreed. He's absolutely perfect. But, they said, he hasn't had a leading role in a movie yet, which in terms of indie financing was really a handicap for them. Listen, at this point, Bryan has, in the past 5 years, has proven himself in every arena as an actor. TV series, TV movies, as Peter said, playing the lead in feature films like Trumbo in The Infiltrator. He's been nominated for an Oscar. He won the Tony Award for his Broadway turn playing President Lyndon Johnson. So I think we can safely say now that Bryan Cranston has fully arrived. But back in 2012, there was no Broadway play yet. There was no Trumbo. Bryan finished shooting the last season of Breaking Bad, and he began rehearsals for his Broadway debut. So he wasn't available anyway when I said, I want to work with Bryan Cranston. And as the months passed, I became more stubborn with my producers about wanting Bryan to play Wakefield. I kept saying to my producers, look, Bryan Cranston is the one. Why can't I just offer him the role? And my producers kept repeating with patience, as if I were a 3-year-old asking for ice cream, of course you want Bryan Cranston. We totally get it. We like ice cream too. And then they would start telling me why I couldn't have ice cream. Budgets, international sales estimates, indie financing strategies. We love you, Julian Bonney said. We're just trying to protect you so that you have enough to shoot the movie that you have written. Can't you just cast an actor who's already a movie star? But the problem was, I still wanted ice cream. And then something wonderful happened. Breaking Bad began playing on TV in Germany. And that show began to convert a German audience into Bryan Cranston fans. If the German audience had not embraced Breaking Bad, I don't know that Trumbo and Wakefield would have ever gotten made. You helped make Bryan Cranston an international name. With new fans in other places in the world, Bryan suddenly had bankable value in the international market, and the international market is actually what drives financing for indie films in the USA. So thank you. And thank you to the German television executive who made the decision to run that show. Now I could send Bryan my screenplay. Amazingly, Bryan actually read it. Not all actors read. He read it more than once. And even more amazingly, Bryan said yes. So a little wrinkle, we had to wait for Bryan to finish other projects first. My producers, who really did like ice cream, were increasingly nervous, because if you wait too long to enjoy that ice cream cone, you know what happens. But a year and a half after we met, Bryan kept his promise to us. We had a very narrow window of time. As soon as Bryan was available, we immediately went into production. Every detail, including the casting of Jennifer Garner, came together in only 9 weeks. On our indie budget, what we could afford was 12 days of shooting in December and 8 shooting days in January. That's a total of 20 days of photography in LA. Here is what made it possible. Bryan Cranston. He is rock solid. I will briefly share a strong memory of one of our shooting days because I really do want you to understand who Bryan is. We had to shoot the film in Los Angeles. It's set in Connecticut on the East Coast. We had to pretend that we were creating Connecticut in Los Angeles. The only part of Los Angeles that looks remotely like Connecticut is a town called Pasadena. Pasadena is usually fairly warm in January. Roses bloom in January in Pasadena. But on this particular week in January, the weather was absolutely freezing and wet. We were shooting at night in a small urban park where Bryan was going to have to go swimming naked in a dubious little drainage pond, the only pond we could find in Los Angeles. To be on the safe side, we had the water tested. The labs came back. It was sanitary enough to permit contact to the skin. It was not clean enough to drink. We had spent the afternoon filming Day for Night, a scene of Bryan running half naked through the park, then falling on his face repeatedly. But now it was really night. The temperature had dropped to -1 centigrade, and Bryan had to wade into this freezing pond fully naked, with a beard glued to his face, a wig pinned to his scalp, and fake fingernails and toenails glued onto his hands and feet. And also, I should say this, Bryan had not eaten a real meal in a couple of weeks. Before we started shooting, Bryan started a fasting diet so that he would look appropriately starved for the role. So Bryan was cold, he was hairy, and he was very hungry. The rest of us were wearing down coats, hats, gloves, boots, and honestly, I was still cold. And yet here was Bryan, fully naked, chilled to the bone, wading out into the dark water alone in a nasty, half-frozen urban pond. Wig, beard, toenails, starving. "Be very careful not to drink that pond water, Bryan," I said. "But we do need to see you bring a handful of that water to your lips. Splash it on your face. If skin contact is okay," the lab said. "Think of the summer heat, Bryan. It's August for Howard Wakefield. You've been trapped in that hot attic, you're sweating. Wow, that cool water feels so good right now." Directors are sadists. Actors are angels. And especially Bryan Cranston, because that night he paid for a special coffee truck to come to our location as a gift to our crew to keep them warm and awake and safe driving home. It was a long work night, but Bryan worked through the freezing cold with unflagging good spirits and, as always, with kindness toward the band of filmmakers on our set. Bryan, your work in Wakefield is truly brilliant. Thank you for believing in this project, and thank you for saying yes. Thank you for your trust, and thank you for your very real commitment. And thank you for not drinking the pond water.